Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here again today. If you will, go ahead and let's go back to the 119th Psalm. We'll continue working our way through this long psalm. We'll be picking up in the 121st verse. This is beginning a new section, the 16th verse, if you will. 16th section. Again, each one of these would start with the next letter. This would be the 16th letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Again, we really can't see it in English, but that's the way it would lay out for us if we were, again, reading it in Hebrew. And we have established this far that the psalmist is going through the unknown psalmist, so it makes it challenging for us to know, to understand exactly the details. But whoever he was going through some unknown circumstance and situation, and it appears that it's not getting any better. That his enemies are continuing to come against him. And so this section again, what do we do? How do we handle the circumstances, uh, bad situations, bad circumstances when they don't get any better? When the enemies continue to attack, when it appears that again, we've seen in this psalm that the psalmist has pledged his allegiance to God and His Word, and yet nothing seems to be getting any better. And we can all, I think, probably identify with that from time to time in our own life, in our own journey. Uh, and so this section, again, this is the 16th section. It looks like, I don't know any way to say it, but that the psalmist is beginning to get a little impatient, a little frustrated, maybe a little scared as he continues to deal with this, and no change. And I think if you pay close attention to this section as we work through it, you'll see that the psalmist, um, his attitude has changed a little bit from the previous 120 verses. He is again a little more. Um, his intensity is obvious. He's we've read that his life is being threatened. We saw that, and if you look, jump ahead a little bit in verse 26, 126, he said, "It is time for thee, Lord, to work." Um, he's ready. He says to God, "It's time for you to do something." And I think again, most of us can probably um, sympathize, identify with that feeling that God is okay. Enough's enough, Lord. It's time for you to step in. It's time for you to intervene in this situation. And so again, his enemies appear to be continuing to attack him, and he thinks that he could die. And he's been faithful to the Lord. He's been faithful to the Word of God, and yet his circumstances are not getting any better. And again, I think that on occasion, various times in our life, we can sympathize with his situation. And so this section is what we do when I guess when we think there's no hope, when it appears that the enemy, our adversary, is going to be victorious. What do we do? And what we see in this psalm is he just rededicates his attention on to the Lord and to continuing to follow Him in this situation. So let's pick up in the 121st verse, and he begins with a plea for the deliverance of God. I have done judgment and justice. Leave me not to mine oppressors. The psalmist here, and this is a very critical point for you and I to keep in mind. He says, I have done judgment and justice. In other words, the psalmist approaches God very boldly because he feels like, he believes that he has been living correctly, that he has been doing the right thing, that he has been living his life according to the Word of God, that he has been obediently following God, living by His Word. I have done judgment and justice, and so he's saying, I'm confident that what I have done is right. Some people may cringe a little bit at that statement, but again, if it's the truth, it's the truth. He says, as far as I can tell, everything I know, I have lived correctly. And we don't see anything in the psalm where God pushes back and says, no, you haven't. So apparently he is living right. And in spite of that, he still is being, to use his word, oppressed. And so he asked God to help him based on his living according to the Word of God. Because of that, he says, be merciful, be gracious, and do not allow me, don't leave me to mine oppressors. Don't abandon me. And this verse is one that I think is something that that most believers can own again at various times in their journey identify with. When we feel like I'm trying to live by the Word of God, I'm trying to be obedient, and it seems like the circumstances are not getting any better. And one of the lessons that I think this psalm, this verse in particular, teaches us here is that we can be bold, persist in praying and asking for the mercy of God. He doesn't, when I look at this, he doesn't he doesn't beat around the bush about his situation. I'm trying to live right. I'm trying to do the right things, so I don't have any shame in going to God. As a child of God, as a servant of Jesus Christ, the Bible tells us that we can go boldly before the throne. And so, as we think about that, I think the challenge that comes to my mind is that it's important for us to be able to say what the psalmist says. I have done judgment and justice. You can fool some of the people some of the time, they say, but you can't fool God any of the time. And we need to be living a life that sets us up and prepares us to be able to go boldly before God and to make our needs and our intercessions known. And that's the real challenge I'll take away as I think about the lesson of this verse. Is can we, if calamity were to strike you, and I pray it doesn't, but let's just, if calamity were to strike you at this very moment, Is your life, is your testimony such that you could go before God and say that I have done judgment and justice, that I am living according to your word, Lord, so don't leave me to the hands of my enemies. And that's the challenging question for us today that I can't answer for you. No one can answer for you. That's between you and the Lord. Can you say today with calmness, with assurance, with boldness that I have done judgment and justice, that I'm living my life according to the word and the will of God, so that I can go boldly before Him? You think about that today. It's a challenging thought, and we'll see you back here tomorrow morning.